This is Dr. Olufade. Welcome to another episode of In Touch Think STEM Career Podcast. This afternoon, I am honored and I have the privilege to be talking with Denise Spiller. Denise Spiller is an author, she's a digital writer, and also she's the founder of Writing and Technology in Africa. Denise, welcome to In Touch Think Career Podcast. How have you been?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Ayo, for that lovely introduction. And thank you for welcoming me to your show. I'm really honored to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Denise, do you mind to take a moment to tell us about yourself, please?
Sure. I have always been a writer and I authored a book at a young age. I published a small newsletter at a young age as a teenager. It was a way that I processed my stress when I was young and I didn't even know it at the time. So that whole thing about writing being therapeutic, that's my entire life. And then I went into a stressful career in law enforcement and I continued to write and I wrote everything out. And when I left law enforcement, I wrote a book called Relentless Life, Just Keep Going. Because there's so many ways along the way that we, as human beings, we get discouraged. It just is part of life. And so I wanted to encourage people that no matter what, keep going, right? Mostly it's about creativity. Mostly it's about your creativity. Keep going with that. Keep going with chasing your dreams. And that led me to being a digital publisher. And when I left the job, I had left in September. And in December, I woke up in Africa. It was a lifelong dream. And I made it happen. I was
Wait a minute. Did you say you woke? You went
I did. I said one day when I was a teenager,
wow.
I was really very religious as a teenager.
Yeah.
Evangelicals, they want to change the world. So I always thought I was going to go to Africa as an evangelist, maybe one of the pastors or one of the groups that would go over there and maybe dig holes. That never surfaced. I don't think that was my calling. It didn't happen, but it was a dream. And when I left the job, I knew that year, I said, I am going to wake up in Africa. And so it was September 2020. And if you recall, COVID was coming. COVID was here. There was a small group of us that had planned on going over. A lot of Americans want to go to Africa. It's a dream, especially Black Americans, African Americans, Indigenous people. We want to go to Africa. The group fell apart. We had our tickets. It's not cheap. We had to save for that. We had our tickets. We had everything. The trip was delayed, but I refused to cancel. I said, no, I'm not canceling. I'm going. And some of my sister, she cried. She was like, I don't know if you're brave or stupid. Boy, you're still going to go. And I said, yeah, I'm still going. I'm not canceling. The day after Christmas, December 26, 2020, I got on that flight and I went and I landed in airport.
Mohammed.
Yes. Thank you.
International Airport. Yes.
And that's a whole nother level of crazy, right?
Yes.
Landed there. My bags didn't show up. Bags got stuck in Paris at Charles de Gaulle Airport. And anyway, fast forward to me making it to my accommodations, getting there safely, not having electricity for 2 days, not really being prepared for that aspect of it. And about 3 days later, somebody asked me, how was I? They were like, isn't Lagos crazy? Isn't Nigeria crazy? And I said, God bless this place. God dropped me in the middle of my crazy because I love it. And I had only been there 5 days. And I was like, I love it. It was just my kind of crazy.
Were you terrified? Were you terrified? Were you, oh my God, what have I done?
Never terrified. Yeah. A few times I was like, is this really happening? There were a couple of situations where I was like, am I here? Pinch, pinch. It's surreal. Is this a dream? There are couple, because there's so many things. There's so many unexpected things. With traveling, there's always unexpected things.
Yes.
Always. I'm an adventurer kind of person that jumps in with both feet. Yeah. You might get burned like that. When I'll pivot, make an adjustment.
Wow.
That's what you do in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The last thing I want to say about that trip was it literally changed my mindset, it changed my heart, and it grew and expanded my dreams to an entire another level.
Wow.
I cannot talk about it enough.
Wow.
I
So
can't.
we have to do another show about your experience.
Yes, Americans and foreigners in Africa,
Rest.
regardless to what country you come from,
Yes.
it is especially Americans. I can speak for us because I grew up here. It is an entire another level of consciousness. You're
Yes.
awakening yourself to something different.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's so many, if you search on YouTube, there's so many of us talking about it.
Mm.
I have so much to say. There has to be an outlet for that, whether it's in my
Yeah.
books, in my projects,
Yes.
in everything that I hope to do. It all now ties to Africa in one way or another.
Excellent.
Everything I do literally ties to Africa now.
Excellent. Excellent. Definitely, we have to do a show on that. We have to do an episode on that. But today, I'm really excited that we're going to be talking about nexus between creative writing skills and the STEM education and careers, unleashing your hidden creativity. One thing that I do want to ask you, I have to ask you this. When you were in Nigeria,
Yes.
what was your favorite food? I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
How do you like our jollof rice?
See, you don't really want to talk about STEM education. You don't really want to talk about that because now you're talking about what I loved the most was the food in general.
Okay. Good.
I really thought I ate so good. And when I say good, complete. I ate completely.
Wow.
But everything is so fresh. The beauty of
that's true.
the positive side of not having electricity 24 hours, 7 days like we do here is that you prepare differently. So you may not buy too much. So I was at the marketplace every 2 days buying fresh goods to cook. And after I was there for a week, which I spent almost 2 months, 2 months there.
2 months.
After about 2 weeks, I was cooking.
Wow.
Now I just wanted to cook because I love to cook here.
Right.
So I started cooking and had to buy fresh peppers and onions. Surprisingly, I love pepper soup. I thought it was going to kill me, but I loved it. Just the name alone, right?
Yeah, it will clean you too.
Yeah, I don't even understand why Nigerians, and I haven't been to a lot of other countries yet, but I imagine that a lot of African food from other places is as refreshing and spicy kind of as Nigerian food, right?
That's
So
true.
COVID should be scared of Africans. Africans don't need to be scared of COVID because it can't live in your body. It can't live in your body. I think
Wow,
is
man, you're taking me back.
like, here comes pepper soup.
You want to know the best pepper soup? I love pepper soup with catfish. I'm telling you, it's the best. Of course, you can put all kind of assortment of meat in pepper soup, but the one with catfish.
I have a picture of the catfish that they brought to our table because we were sitting in Aja at the end of the island, and they were like, "You guys want catfish? They're grilling it fresh, of course."
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to get a plate. This is my first time getting catfish outside of the house because we had made catfish in the house. I thought I was going to get a plate with catfish and maybe some peppers, When that catfish came to the table, I was like, I have lived. Thank you, Lord. I was so grateful. I was saying grace as they put it down at the table. My eyes got so big on it. Wow. It was the entire fish.
Right.
For any audience that doesn't know, it's the entire fish, the head still on, peppers, seasoning, and they bring you the bowl for you to wash your hands. And I'm like,
now you're
ready.
Taking me back. You're taking me back.
And then they showed me this is how we do it. So they showed me how to pull it, and I was sitting there, I had my eyes closed after that first bite. I was like, I don't want to behave like a foolish American. I don't want to behave like a foolish foreigner. So I wasn't making any noises, but what was happening in my palate was just like, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to do too much. What's wrong with her? What's wrong with this Oyibo? Like, you never had catfish? You know what I mean? Best catfish I've ever had. And we eat catfish like crazy over here. Cracker fish. We had that at the beach.
Wow.
And when I ate that, I was like,
what
kind of fish is this? I think this is my favorite. And a lot of people I was with, they were like, stop saying everything's your favorite. Every day I was like, this is my favorite. You know?
Oh, wow. I am happy that you had the best experience
Oh, I did. I did.
And we have not even touched Suya as
Now, I had suya here
you're
at a
right.
Nigerian restaurant as a little kind of test. They have some suya. So when I
Yeah.
went there, I asked for suya
Okay. How do
and
you?
I got to compare. And the thing is, it was very good here,
Okay.
but I checked in and I was like, who cooked this?
Hmm.
This is before I went to Nigeria. So I want to know who cooked it because you have a lot of possible foreigners might be cooking the food and
Yeah.
maybe not, but there were Nigerians who owned the restaurant who were
Yeah.
cooking stuff in the kitchen. And
Yeah.
so when I got there, it was very authentic.
Oh, wow. Nice. Excellent. And one last thing is I make sauce too. My sauce is
Yes.
soy sauce and oil. It's an African
Mhm.
red sauce. Now, you can use that to make your pepper soup, but that's another conversation for another day. Oh, man, I'm so happy that you were able to share your experience. Thank you so much. So why Africa? Why? I noticed that you also collaborate with Africans, but your target is Africa. Why Africa? Um,
Sure. It's very personal. So I'm not
yeah.
just, we call ourselves Black Americans and call ourselves African Americans.
Okay.
My family, way before I even thought to get my genealogy report,
Yeah.
which I didn't even get my own yet. I still
Okay.
need to get my own, but I got the
You
version.
need to. You need to.
Yes, I got my brothers, right? And my
Excellent.
nephew. So I
Excellent.
looked at theirs and I was so proud of it.
Yeah.
My great grandmother, I have a picture of her. I have a picture of my great grandfather,
Right.
right? Then
Right.
there's my mother, my grandfather, and my mom and
Right.
dad. And my great grandmother is direct out of West Africa,
Wow.
a very dark woman. Her name was Anna, hence me
Okay.
giving myself the middle name Analee, which in other
Anasi.
way, Analee is favor and grace.
Right.
And I have felt blessed to feel like the favor of God over my ideas my whole life. I always submit myself to the spiritual realm first and say, is this going to work? And I pray on it. I meditate on it. And
Yeah.
Anna, my great grandmother, 60s, she was West African.
Mm.
And then great grandfather was from England. Not England, he was from Europe. He was from a country
Right.
in Europe, right? They had, was it 16 children?
Mm.
And they were unable at that time to live together as husband and wife, but they did live together. So we
Wow.
have a lot of our history that
Mm.
there was a pretending she was a servant kind of thing going on and they
Mm.
raised their children and my grandmother and grandfather. So we have this long story. So when my brother finally went in, our whole family is very proud to at least know that much of our history.
Right.
But we didn't know which part of Africa we didn't exactly know. And then when we got it back, I looked at my brothers and I was like, yes, I was so excited. When we added all together, there were four
Right.
African countries. When we added all together, it was 67% West African.
Wow.
The most of it came out of Nigeria.
Oh, congratulations.
And so I was like, and I had met Nigerians and they were like, I was so comfortable over there. They're just like,
Right.
she's comfortable. I tried to walk by myself and the locals that were at the house would be like, you're never going anywhere by yourself. You might as well stop trying because in this land, you're still foreign and it may not be safe for you. So they're always behind me because I walk every morning. That's part of my exercise. But I was telling them, I was like, you guys know I'm Nigerian, right? Stop.
I'm really proud of you and your brother doing your genealogy. That is really good. I can't wait for you to do yours.
Yes, I
One,
can do
one,
that.
yeah, one power that it gives you is it helps you to really recognize that you do have a stake, you do have a heritage, and
Yeah.
you know exactly where you're from. And I'm glad that you're doing it.
Can I say this to just speaking of Africa in general, not
Yes.
just the country that I have more familiarity with right now, because I plan, of course, to go I want to see some other countries. There is something to I grew up in San Francisco, which is very diverse.
Yeah.
There's whites and blacks and Filipinos and Hispanics, Latin Americans, Mexicans, and just so many Tongans, Samoans, Indians, Pakistanians. There is a mixed bag. So you can walk into a restaurant, you can walk
Yes.
into a room, and you may be the only one of your particular background and color in that room.
Mhm.
And you get very comfortable with that because you grew up like that.
Yeah.
So you may walk into a place where it's a lot of black skinned people or dark skinned people or people of color. You may walk into a place that's all white skinned people, and they don't look like you. You get very comfortable with that. You don't even know how comfortable you got with that until you land in a country where everybody has black skin.
Mm.
And as a Black American, I feel like every Black American, African American that has a cultural tie
Yes.
or background to Africa, not everybody does. We have to
Yes.
recognize that as well. But if you do, and if you know your heritage is directly connected to any country in Africa,
Yes.
it is a beautiful thing that happens when you're
Absolutely.
standing on a beach or in an airport or in a market.
Yes.
Everyone there is or has Black skin or is
Yes.
from an African
Yes.
type of descent. It's an unbelievable experience, and it changes your
Absolutely.
perspective of who you are and what you have to give back to the world
Absolutely.
as a descendant of that continent.
Absolutely.
Gives
It's
you
not, it's time
power.
to connect. It's time to connect. And also,
Yeah,
not only that, just this other idea that you actually can start a business in the commerce between the two continents. Imagine
yes,
America and America has one of the largest population of Africans in diaspora. Imagine that knowledge, the know-how. You can start your own business
amazing.
in Africa. There has to be an international commerce that is taking place between Africans and on the continent and Africans in diaspora. I'm so glad of what you're doing, why you are paying it forward, you're connecting, you're a visionary. Africa is the next emerging economy. We just have to be adventurous to realize the potential.
And I really understand too that other perspective of people they've had limited experience. Some of
Right.
it is just being naive and not exposed.
That's true.
And some other part of it is just having the mindset of, listen, I'm just trying to get by. I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to feed my kids.
Wow.
There's that perspective. And I have been there. I've been in that place where I knew it wasn't my end all. But
Yeah.
right now, let me focus up because I got to feed my kids.
Mm.
I can't bypass feeding my kids to
Yeah.
feed your kids. Like
got
that mentality is not a mentality. It's an experience. And when you're
Yeah.
in it, as a family man, what would happen to you if you literally was not bringing in enough money to feed your children and your wife
Right.
and your family? You would not look at yourself in the mirror the same way if you were sitting here on a podcast this morning and your kids are hungry. You would not
It
be
is
here,
true.
right?
It is true.
So some people aren't there. They may never get there. And
Yeah.
I humbly accept that and don't press. But the
Right.
ones who want to get there, they're your audience and they're
Right.
here.
The sky's the limit.